What has traumatized you for life? I saw a horrible car accident happen last year. I was the first one to the scene. The driver of one car wasn't wearing a seatbelt. I sat with him, tried to get him talking, monitored his breathing, looked for bleeding. Somebody else called 911. He stopped breathing in my arms mere seconds before help arrived. They weren't able to save him. At the age of 11, my father went into the basement to work on some parts. This was quite common. My mother had just gotten home from work and went to take a shower. 20 minutes go by and she gets out, wondering where my father is. We go and check on him in the basement. To my shock, he is lying on the floor, his tongue out, blue in the face, not moving or breathing. He had died from a sudden heart attack. My mother and I tried for over an hour to resuscitate him with CPR. It took that whole time frame for an ambulance to arrive. They did nothing but declare that he was gone. The third anniversary of his death was 3 days ago. It never gets easier trying to understand that he will never be back. I will forever be traumatized by this event. This was 2 months ago. My girlfriend and I had just been on a spa stay at a fancy hotel. She gave it for my birthday like a year ago, but because of COVID, we couldn't get the opportunity. Anyway, we are driving home pretty tired and happy because of the stay we had. As we are driving just outside a city, I look to my left and I see a woman walk on a path at the side of the road. Just 100 meters up the highway a car comes speeding and he takes a sharp right turn, hitting the woman. It was pretty dark, but in his light I could literally see her body explode into pieces. In shock I break the brake. My girlfriend screams, and not because she saw it. I screamed that car just hit her. She doesn't understand, but I tell her to stay in the car, as she is very thankful for me to say to this day today. Why? Because what I later on saw was pure chaos. It was only me at the scene. I had to walk up to dead body parts and a clearly drunk driver and still take this situation under control and call 911. I'm not gonna go into detail since I'm still dealing with the horror I saw there. All I can say is that ever since that night, I have no longer taken a sip of a beer, driven at night or just casual speeding. Worked night shift in a trauma center years ago. Right before shift change, we got a call from EMS. They were bringing us a patient after a motor vehicle accident with CPR in progress. Turns out, it was one of our coworkers on her way to work. EMS got a pulse back, but she died a few days later. I'll never forget the quiet shock trauma room when EMS rolled in with her. I'll never forget taking her off of the Lucas device, a machine that does the chest compressions part of CPR, and feeling the frigidity of her hands, seeing her familiar scrubs, her work badge, her signature nursing shoes. When I was 6 I was running home from school and I fell in some deep body of water and it pulled me away and I was deep under it for a good minute and I remember it was dark and couldn't breathe until my cousin and my dad managed to catch up and get me out. Now I'm scared of pools, beaches, lakes, and type of body of water, especially the ones I can't see the bottom of. I was like 8 and my mom left me to watch my 2-year-old brother at a park while she drank and talked with some friends of hers. My dad came and took my brother to use the restroom and I forgot cause I was playing with other kids at the party. She came over and asked where he is and I didn't know. So she grabbed me roughly and started to drag me to look for him before we came over to a guy with crutches who said he saw him go with a man. My mom began to scream at me. She hated me and she wished I was dead and it should have been me, while I cried with her dragging me. Then we saw my dad and little sister come out of the restroom with my brother. My mom let go and told me to go and play and I didn't, and she threatened to give me something to cry about as I sulked on a park bench before my dad sent me off to go play. My friend lost her baby full term, went into labor and the baby died in her womb during labor. After she delivered him, she couldn't bear to look at him or hold him but also didn't want him taken away. She asked me to hold him for her. I held that baby all day. In the beginning he looked just like he was sleeping with a blue tinge to his lips, but by the end of the day his body was deteriorating quickly. It was so hard to witness the slow decay of something so precious and innocent. To this day, even though the image is vivid as ever, I can't bring myself to describe how he looked. At that point I struggled to even look at the baby, but that's when she wanted to hold him and look at him, and I had to gently explain to her that he did not look the same as he did when she delivered him. and that it might be too traumatic for her. We agreed she needed to remember him as the beautiful baby he was. I wrapped him gently and covered his face. She gave him a kiss all covered up. The nurses then took him away. One of the most tragic moments of her life and mine. My condolences to all the moms out there who have lost child. I feel for you. Where do I start? When I was 4, my mother put me and my 2-year-old brother outside so she could take a nap. He ran into traffic and was run over by a van, mail truck. When the ambulance came, I was left alone until my grandmother was able to come get me. Many members of my family still blame me for what happened to my brother. I'm in my 60s and she and I still have this wall between us. She continued to push childcare on me, and I lost out on many childhood experiences. Because of it, my grandparents were mentally abusive. Because of it, I married an abusive man. Because that is what I was used to. He divorced me when I got cancer. It has taken me a long time and a lot of therapy to recover from the first 40 years of my life. Waking up from a coma after 6 weeks to find out my wife was gone and buried. I lost 8 businesses. My best friend stole all my money. My business partners destroyed contracts to take ownership of my business. Then to top it off, Mexican law meant my in-laws had to sue me to claim certain things that belonged to me and my wife, like our homes, cars, savings. I had a hole in my head, broken ribs, couldn't walk for 6 months. I realized after this, you are truly on your own in this life. Nobody will save you. I had constantly been hurt in my mother's house from my stepdad since around 6 years old, and since my mother was absent working all the time, she didn't really notice when he would hit both me and my brother. He's 4 years younger than me. My stepdad was a drunk, never gotten into the working business, and when he did, it was a good thing for me and my little brother to be away from that sort of stuff. I had always been like a mother figure to my brother because I had to fill in the position. We grew up together as close as 2 siblings could be. Fast forward years later, I had to be 14 at the time. My stepdad came home one day and said he was tired of me and his son ignoring him and asking to be let out of the house. He was a helicopter parent, and since my mother had recently had another baby boy, I was taking care of him in my room, probably giving him his bottle and trying to sleep. After ignoring him like we always try to do, my stepdad came in, took the baby, and proceeded to throw him against my door. Mother instinct came in, and I automatically fought back for that baby until the tables turned and my stepdad pulled out a gun. At this point in time, my 2 brothers were in the room with me watching him take the safety off. He grabbed me by my shirt and pinned up against the wall at gunpoint. He had yelled at me and kept me pinned for 40 minutes, saying how bad of a daughter I was and ungrateful towards the family. It took a lot of maturity to swallow my pride and admit he was right, so he wouldn't shoot me in front of those boys. I was suicidal at the time, so I didn't really react besides anger, and I wouldn't have cared if he did shoot me. BC there would eventually be a case on it anyways, but I couldn't leave my brothers without their sister. It was scary, traumatizing for all 3 of us. Looking back on it, I'm still disgusted of how at as little as 6 years old I was forced to settle on a position I'd never want to take up. I'm glad he finally left those boys alone as soon as I moved away. And as for my mom, she confessed that she knew the abuse had been going on, saying it was a test of how adult I could be at a time. I haven't talked to her since.